What's going on, everybody? YL here. You are tuned in to the Rebel Ears podcast. I'm here with my business partner, Ray.
How y'all doing, everybody? So today we got a few things we're going to be talking about, but of course, starting off the podcast, letting everybody know the 30% discount code is now
Null and void.
For those who bought the pack, we just want to say thank you for everybody who supported us. We got a lot of packs out, and we also going to be creating a cheat sheet soon in the near future for it. So basically, for those who bought the Slime preset pack, we're going to send you a cheat sheet that'll show you like different compressors and different EQ effects. Like you could try to put together, see how it could formulate something. So that's going to be something we're going to be starting more on. And, you know, for the Slime pack and for the 420 pack. So thank you for everybody who bought those.
Yes, we appreciate you guys' support, like always. And like Ray was just saying, we got some more things coming to the people that are definitely supporting us monetary-wise, products and buying the things that we have online. Again, we appreciate you, and just stay tuned in for more.
So, of course, you know, as soon as you sign up to the website, you'll be getting our podcast and our blogs emailed to you weekly. We always have an email sent out, normally Tuesday, Saturday, just to formulate comfort for people who's trying to be more involved with what we got at Rebel Ears. So starting off with this episode, YL and I, we're going to go back memory lane to actually yesterday. So that wasn't long ago, but the funny thing about yesterday is YL was hitting me up when I was out about the next podcast episode that needed to be mixed, because normally he do the mixes and I do the editing. So basically what I do after we do the episode of the podcast, I open up the session on Pro Tools. I have YL's audio and my audio side by side, mono, of course. I cut it, some breathing parts or some mistakes that's been made, and then I crossfade it out so it could be like a natural, like fade in, fade out, basically.
And flows together.
Yeah. And then after I do that, be done in a few, two hours possibly, and then I go ahead and send it to YL. But the way we do it now, because to make it easy for the session to go between him and I, he works on the mix, I work on the edits, but so he don't have to worry about anything messing up when it comes to, like, if I send him the session and then there's a audio missing, like one part, so many cuts. So I started printing it instead of bouncing it, because with me, I learned from Max about printing. So, well, yeah, let's go ahead and break it down between bouncing and printing. Why, you know, they're beneficial in their parts.
I'm a fan of printing myself for a lot of different reasons. The same reason you were just explaining. You know, just to basically, it'll be easier to send your audio files if you print them.
Yeah.
Versus trying to send a whole list of audio files. You might have, like, say if you just send a session, if you open up a session folder and you click on audio files, you might have 120 files.
Yeah.
But that's not 120 pieces of recorded audio. A lot of those different audio files are a little tiny, especially if you made your cuts, and he makes the cuts because he does the editing.
Yeah.
So once you cut and you start to cut up all your ad libs, or you cut up, you know, just a lot of the space out of your audio, it cuts up your audio files. So it's easier to print, and you basically printing a track instead of the audio file itself. You're printing that whole track. So whatever's on that track is getting printed all at one time. And that's another good point, and that's one reason why he started printing and sending me the prints. You can still send them in WAV files and everything. Yeah. The main reason why I like printing, well, before, definitely earlier when I started mixing a lot, recording at a lot of different studios, they had a lot of plugins that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm stacked up now, but before then it was like, when you print, you're printing the sound. So basically,
the effects, yeah.
You're printing the effects. So when I was recording at different studios and using, you know, these great plugins that they have that I don't have, if I would just save the session and bring the session back up, and my mixing station, it wouldn't sound the same because I don't have those plugins. So the sound that I created in the studio that the artist fell in love with would disappear. I would have to try to recreate that sound using different plugins, and it's difficult. It takes time. It's not difficult. It just takes a lot more time when you're mixing. So I started printing to print out those effects, and then when I get home, I have those effects on that audio. It's still on that track. And, you know, bouncing, you know, of course you're going to do a bounce after your final mix and, you know, different things like that.
Yeah.
If you have like production as far as like instrumentation, you could just bounce that stuff out. But printing, it definitely cuts down on the amount of audio files you'll have.
Yep. And
it also, you know, allow you to just keep that same sound that you had before. It's kind of like a recall sheet. That's what I look at it as. If you deal with a lot of analog gear, you know, you got to fill out your recall sheets because when you leave the studio, you got to put everything back on Unity.
Yeah, just like an assistant engineer or an intern, you know, getting the studio ready for the next artist.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So with me, with printing, because I learned from Max and Dan, that was the reason why, you know, to get the effects of whatever they do in the studio, just in case if you want to mix it at home on your laptop, because Steve Hibicki mixes in his laptop all the time. He records through his laptop also. So I do know the benefits of printing, especially when you have this big, huge session for a record label, and you know you have multiple artists. They're using just that artist by themselves, probably using at least 20 plugins. Because when they get it in depth, especially with the instrumentations, the audio, you gotta cut down on the plugin, especially when it comes to like the final mixing of it. Especially when you send it to the mastering engineer, it helps you to balance everything out.
That's a great point too. Processing. That's a great point. Yeah. Because you can print it down and put that print on a blank track, and then you can make all of the original track with all of the processing on it, with all of your plugins on it. You can mute it. You can, you know, make it inactive, hide it. If you're super confident, and you can even get rid of those plugins just so you save processing on Pro Tools.
But make sure you have a session saved before you do that. So with me, every time, you know, I open a session another day, I call it like M1 or M2 for mix 1, mix 2, because it helps you to stay organized. Let's say before you start printing, I would save a new session. Well, not a new session, but I would just save as a way of making sure before printing, and then you have another session that says after printing. So if you made an effect after you printed everything and you deleted some of the plugins, you can just go to that last session, open it up, print it again, and just import it into that session.
Right. And I mean, printing is pretty simple. The way I do it, I'll take my audio track.
Yeah.
It depends on what I'm doing. Like sometimes I'll print like a whole, I'll print out a whole
verse, hook?
Nah, a whole verse with the ad libs in the print and all. But when and a lot of times those have been like special situations.
Yeah.
Because it's not really ideal, but I've done it for certain artists. But usually I'll just take the lead track. I will route that lead track to an aux.
Yeah.
And then route that aux to an audio track. And then the audio track that you're routing your aux to, you press record on it. And that's how you print. And you just hit the space bar, let it play. And as that one track plays out through your aux, it's recording on that empty audio track. So if you had if nobody knows how to print, or whoever listening wanted to know what printing was and how to do it, that's a pretty simple explanation. And outside of that, there's plenty of self-help videos out there for you.
Oh, yeah, Google and YouTube.
YouTube University.
So when it comes to printing, something that is similar to it, it's in another category, bouncing. So let's say you're leaving the studio, you might hear the artist tell the engineer, hey, can you just bounce that out for me? Okay, that's different than printing, because bouncing it out is basically, you know, you have, you know, the session that y'all had today, recording, mixing session, whatever. The artist just want MP3 or a WAV version of the track itself, everything. So go ahead, and I guess I talked the basics of bouncing.
Bouncing is a lot simpler than printing. It's usually what you would do, like, after I print, I bounce.
Yeah.
That's basically the only way the artist or the producer is going to get that whole file as far as the song itself. Sometimes, I encourage every artist to make sure you have your sessions on a hard drive, but a lot of artists, they don't care about the session, but they want something to go home and listen to before it gets mixed or however. And so bouncing, you'll just highlight every single track. You'll highlight it from the beginning to the end after you do your final fade out on the end. And you'll hit Option Command B if you're using Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Option Command B if you're using Mac. And I think, what is it? Alt?
What, Control?
Yeah, what is it on Microsoft? I use mostly Apple.
I think it's Control. I'm a Mac person. So.
I think it's Windows Control B, something like that.
Oh, the icon, yeah.
Yeah. And and then it's gonna ask you to bounce, and it gives you the opportunity to bounce WAV files, MP3 files. It's another file on there that I never use, so I'm not gonna flex. And you get to choose your buffer size and your bit depth and all size,
of that. Research that.
And always bounce interleaved. If you've ever got a bounce where it only plays through the left speaker or the left headphone, is because it's not interleaved. Interleaved is stereo. You want a stereo bounce always. So anytime you see interleaved on any menu, even when you start your sessions, it's going to ask you if you want to interleave. You always check interleave. Let me see. That's pretty much it about bouncing, man. It's pretty simple. Just make sure you got everything routed to your master, because whatever's not on that master is not going to get bounced. Because once you get to the bounce menu, it's going to ask you what your output is. And 9 times out of 10, your output is going to be the master track, whether you create one or not. So make sure everything is routed correctly. Make sure all your auxes are going to your master track. And basically you're just bouncing out what you did.
Yeah, exactly. And good tip on the key command when it comes to bouncing. You said Command Option B, right?
Yeah, Option Command B.
Okay, so this is in between bouncing and printing. So this is basically consolidating a file, track. So this key command is Shift Option 3. Shift Option 3. So basically what you would do, let's say if you cut, you're doing the first verse, right? And there's like a lot of breathings. You cut those off. You do some crossfades. You fix it up the way you want it to. But you just want to have one waveform of the whole first verse. So what you would do, you would highlight the whole verse, and then you'll just click Shift Option 3, and then it'll consolidate the track as one whole waveform. So it makes it easy for you to in a way, it's kind of like printing, but it doesn't print the effects. It's only printing the actual waveform. So the effect that's actually in the track itself is not printing. Printing, you have to record from another track itself.
Right. It basically, consolidating tracks, just basically after you made all your cuts, you cut out the breaths and the, bumping into the mic, different things like that you want to cut out in the empty space. Once you consolidate it, you go from having 8 to 12 different cuts on the verse to one whole track again.
Yep.
Just like Ray was saying. And whatever edits you did will still be in place. So all of the cuts you made will still be cut out, but you're basically bringing that track back into one full track instead of 8 little tiny audio files.
Yeah, exactly. So going back to routing, because you was talking about that when it comes to the master fader, you want everything to go to the master fader. Of course, that's your output 1, 2.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a submaster in your sessions? I'm trying to remember. I think we had a discussion about it before.
I do. It really depends. For some reason, it depends on the artist. It depends on the song. If I have a 2-track, I'm probably not going to use a submaster. And I've done it before with 2 tracks, but I just feel like 2 tracks, I'm already so limited to what I can do, especially to the actual beat itself. But if I have track outs, I do use submasters. I use
That makes more sense.
I pretty much put an aux on everything. Every piano, I mean all the horns. If it's multiple horns, the horns get their own aux. The drums get their own aux. If it's multiple guitars, they get their own aux, and then they go into a big instrument aux. And then all the drums go into one big drum aux,
like
and all of that goes into a
cymbals, toms. They go into the drum aux. Yeah. So
So I use Submasters. I would say one thing that I make sure I always do when routing, to me probably one of the most important things that I always do and I always use is my sub mix. Especially when I'm doing, it's my sub bus. So basically it'll be, my drum sub, my instrument sub, my hook sub, artist one, his aux, artist two has their own aux. And one reason why, and you don't have to mix like that to be honest, but the reason I do it is because I like being organized. Yeah. So I name every single track, I name every single aux. Like you will never see, the actual input or like the destination of where it's going. You don't know if it's 13 and 14 or if it's 1 and 2 when you're busting. 1 and 2, bus 13, 14. You won't know what bus it is because it's going to actually say, vocals, hook, drums, different things like that. It might say, guitars, it might say special effects, whatever I'm doing. So
delay, reverb,
yeah, you know what I mean. I name everything, and that's one reason why I use so many different bus subs. You don't have to. Everybody mixes differently. You got to find your niche.
Yeah. So with me, I do like when I'm using auxes, I like to experiment. So with sometimes you want to do like parallel compressions, stack compressions. There's different ways of using routing to change the effects of a track itself. Because with me, what I learned from Steve is he normally don't put any effects on the track itself just to keep the raw energy and put all the effects on the aux itself. Some people put a compressor EQ on that actual track and then another compressor EQ on the vocal track. So that is parallel compression. Right. Stack compression is basically having like two compressors on the same track itself. So either on the track itself or the aux.
Yeah, I do both ways, man. I actually remember talking to you about how Steve was showing you how he, instead of putting a lot of plugins on the actual raw track, he uses the auxes. And actually talking to you a few years ago about that, I actually started doing that for some of my mixes. Yeah. And one thing I can say I like about that is now I can control the scene. So one thing that I do, like when it comes to like pitch correction, auto-tune, different things like that, I throw those on auxes now. That way I can really control how much. Like you can control it on the actual track itself, but you got a lot of artists that don't like auto-tune, but they kind of need it. Yeah, they don't know they need it, but you know they need it. You give it to them
slightly,
but they don't really want it. They don't want to hear it. You got to respect their sound. So instead of trying to throw it on the actual track itself and then play with all the parameters in the plug-in itself, I throw it on the aux, play with the parameters, and now I can control how much of what I've done that I want to add to the vocals. And I actually got that from talking to you, and you got that from Steve. So y'all see how information passes, man.
Oh, yeah, you got to learn something new in any field that you're interested in. Our field is, of course, audio visuals. Some people might be selling cars. Some might be, a hobby, sports. Whatever it is, take an interest to learn as much as you can.
Definitely. You can learn from anybody, and I would advise you to be around those type of people that you'll learn from on accident, just off of a simple conversation, you'll be to learn something. And I definitely took that. When you told me that, I just started experimenting, like you saying, trying new things, bro. And I was just like, I'm gonna try to put auto-tune on the aux. It always works now. Yeah, it always works.
And the artist be like, hey, it sounds melodic. Like, I don't hear no auto-tune, but it just captures. Yep. So that's the thing. So speaking on, things can happen like the first time, like an accident. Talking to Kwaku, shout out to Kwaku.
Shout out Kwaku.
Yeah, he, the reason a lot of this has formulated was by his help him investing in Rebel Ears, so shout out to him. Branding is a big thing. He has his own company called Rebellity. Rebellity is actually sponsoring Rebel Ears, so thank you, Rebellity. When it comes to branding, I learned from Kwaku, of course, you want the LLC, but you also want the trademark in any legal situation. The reason for it, because with Rebel Ears, we own it, so it's a different kind of things we can do to expand our company that we started from the ground up. Right. Instead of trying to figure it out, Kwaku was always helping me from, getting the LLC, figuring out a way to get a logo, figuring out, the website actually.
Yep.
And, with the podcast forming, it all made sense, having it all traffic into the website. So the branding of Rebel Ears is constantly the logo and the website.
Yep. And one big thing about branding is, and we actually learned a little bit of branding. I think it was that 4th semester at SAE. We talked about branding a little bit.
What, with Davon? Wait, is that 4th semester?
Was it 4th or 3rd?
Wait, who was it? Tim, or it wasn't Mark? It
wasn't Mark. It might have been Bill or Tim.
Oh, Bill. I think it was Bill because he was leaving.
Because they were they were talking to us about, different colors, different things that attract the eye.
McDonald's, like the M, the golden arch is yellow symbols for a reason, but the background is red for a reason. So basically, the M on McDonald's is supposed to be comforting, yellow, inviting you in, but the red behind the image is actually a way for you to like come and go. It's kind of like, a fast pace, not even noticing how, if you have a red car, you are most likely to get stopped by a cop just because of the color itself. It's crazy, but it's
you're probably most likely to even drive it differently.
Yeah.
Just because it's red. I mean, it's just, we learned a lot of things about, subconscious symbols and different things like that. So to say that, when you're working on your brand, I think the biggest thing is make sure once you get your logo, once you make sure that you own your logo, it's your logo, nobody else can use it, you got a trademark. I would say make sure you put the brand out there, like just throw it in their face every chance you get, stamp it on every picture you post, stamp it on every email you send. I don't care if you mailing letters in the mail, put your sticker on it. Get your t-shirts, just anything you can do to where your brand is everywhere. Plaster it on your car.
Yep.
And what'll happen is people might not be familiar with your brand, but they'll be familiar with your logo.
Yeah.
And when they understand what the brand is, they're already familiar with the logo. So subconsciously, now they feel that they're familiar with your business and they might want to support you even more because it's like, I've seen them everywhere.
Yeah, you putting the work in. So when it comes to inventory, when it comes to branding, we invested in a lot, from Rebel Ears stickers, hats, mugs, banners on the way.
On the way,
yep. Yeah. Pop sockets, business cards.
Yep.
Next is going to be bottle openers.
T-shirts.
Bottle openers are
bottle openers definitely next.
Yeah, people are attracted to bottle openers because it's a necessity.
Yep, you can't go wrong. Like, some waters come with where they need a bottle opener. It comes with that aluminum top.
Oh, you mean Pelo Grigio?
Yeah, I mean it's a few of them out there that I always see in the hotels and stuff. I don't like sparkling water, so I don't drink it.
It's cool, but
I mean, you can use it as a can opener if you drink sodas and so whatever. But the thing about it is too, so a lot of the things that we invested in was to put it in people's face every time they see us on the podcast and they see we're wearing or something around us is always going to say Rebel Ears.
Yeah.
The second thing about that, where the pop sockets and bottle openers on the way, things like that are coming into play, it's a necessity. But it's a necessity that people don't think about, oh, I really, really need this. More so, oh yeah, I'll use that. Versus, it's almost like sometimes you might, some people have had multiple stages of where they had business cards, and you pass the business cards out, you never get calls, and people crumple them up, and your flyers and different things like that. And for almost the same price, you can literally just buy a bunch of bottle openers or a bunch of, little keychain flashlights with your logo on it and your website on the back of it. And people will actually be like, I can actually clip this to my key ring because I will use this.
Yeah.
Now, every day, what are you doing? You're putting it in their face. So eventually they're going to be like, man, I got this bottle opener 3 months ago from this guy. Let me see what it's all about. And now they come on and they support you because they feel like they know you.
Yeah. And it is actually proven when it comes to the, the ratio of people actually going to the website or calling the number, whatever it is basically what you give away that triggers like a subconscious image. So this been proven like literally 1,000 times in front of me at different conventions when they have like different booths there. Every booth, they have something to advertise. They might have a flyer, a banner, bottle opener, keychain, shirts, whatever it is. But the thing is a consistent advertisement, because if you at a convention center, right? Let's say we're at an audio convention center like, what is it? AES or
NARP, different things like
NARP,
that.
Yeah. NAMM, we got to go to NAMM.
Yeah.
So let's say we go into an audio convention center, right? A good gear, Universal Audio. They probably got some hard drives like flashcards or a lanyard. And while you walking around the convention center, people are constantly seeing Universal Audio on the lanyard. If you're wearing that, if they gave you a shirt, you post it on social media. It's all about branding.
All about branding, even down to the little plastic bag they give you is gonna little gift bag.
Just hold everybody else's stuff in our bag.
In our bag, like, it's huge when you talk about branding. It's just, and what we're learning also is, the sky is the limit when you talk about branding. There's so many different things that go in with branding and marketing, so many different ways, and like the way I believe when it comes to branding and marketing your brand, I believe it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
If you can get it to 100, 60 will look at it. Out of that 60, 20 will engage in it. And sometimes the numbers will be better than that or worse than that. But the thing about it is, it's one of those things where you won't know if you don't try. If you can get to 200 people, then you'll double those numbers or whatever you got when you only got to 100. And being able to put it in people's face, you got a solid brand, you got solid marketing. I mean, eventually you will be a household name just because of that logo, and you really just putting this brand out here, man.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and talk about our new blog post. So, time-based effects when it comes to reverb.
Yeah. So, new blog coming out. You gotta make sure, you guys get on the website and leave comments. We definitely appreciate feedback, constructive criticism.
Of course.
And, if you guys can read the new blog coming out on time-based effects, this is probably going to be one of the longer blogs we've had because time-based effects are so complex, I guess you can say. But one of the main time-based effects that people love but might not know is reverb.
Yep.
Reverbs and delays, they both go hand in hand. And I was just actually looking at a video like 3 days ago about reverse reverberation and reverse delays. And I mean, I've never done it actually, but I'm gonna start trying it. You know what I'm saying? Because I hear a lot of different sounds in songs on the radio and songs on iTunes and different nature, and I hear something, I be like, oh, that's fire. And I know that maybe a producer did it, but it sounds like, okay, that might, And what I've been hearing is the reverse reverberation.
Yeah.
And I stumbled upon a video about it. And the thing about reverb is, like, it's a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
Like, for people who mix, I know we've been on both sides where somebody might be like, hey, man, this sound like I'm in a tunnel a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
So
you
much
gotta,
echo.
and then when you hear it, and when he tell you that, he don't know that it's too much reverb on the track. You know what I'm saying? And then you hear it and you be like, okay, when he say that just mean he want me to turn the reverb down. So you can literally go in, turn your send down, you know, and next thing you know, he's happy with the mix. Or vice versa on the end where you be like, yeah, man, it's a little too dry for me. Or, you know, I kind of want to sound underwater and different things like that. Like, you can make so many different sounds with reverb.
That's true.
And one thing that I've been experimenting in for years is combining filters and reverbs together. Especially like on intros and like even on like instruments. Like, man, there's so much you can do with reverb. Y'all go check the new blog out.
Yeah. Okay, so two things real quick when it comes to reverse reverb. And also when it comes to an effect I do with a reverb and a sidechain. So the first one, when it came to the reverse reverb, the first time I noticed it was Steve showed me. He did it on Sway Lee's Hook on Black Beatles.
Right, and see, those are the type of songs you'll hear him on.
Yeah. And he showed me because he had to bring up that session to do Nicki Minaj's remix on the Barbie Beatles. What was it? Black Barbies? Black Barbies. And the remix came out, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's a reverse reverb. That was my first time seeing it. So it was cool to actually see it, like how broad it can go, that people remember. It's crazy. Now, when it comes to the effect that I use when it comes to the reverb, so this is something that I use to, like, this is kind of, in a way, a Travis Scott feel, if you want it to be, or if it's something that you just want, like, little effects of. So basically, you have your reverb. You will have it, it depends on how wet you want it, probably 80, 90 to 100% wet. I'm trying to think on... like you can change the effects of it as much as you want. You can make it sound like you're in the halls. You can make it sound like you're in a choir or, you know, outside, whatever you wanted to do, you know, put the reverb how you wanted to. What you would do in the send, you would put a sidechain, call it reverb sidechain. So what you would do, you would have another aux. So this sidechain might be a compressor. So I use the ARC compressor. You got to mix with the, what is it? Oh, no, compressor. I'm trying to remember. I'm drawing a blank.
What are the attack,
release, and...
you got, input, output.
No, threshold. Okay,
threshold,
so
yeah.
Okay, so with the ARC compressor... Ratio. Okay, so with the ARC compressor, you know, you have your attack, release, ratio, threshold. With the ARC compressor, I would actually put it at a high threshold. I'm trying to believe, because what you want to do, you want it to be like you hear the effects cut out through the attack.
Right.
So the release of it sounds bigger. Right. But you actually on the send, on the reverb track, you will actually control the effects of how much reverb you want into it.
Right.
Like that's just a side chain in itself. Okay, and with the side chain, you would make it for the side chain, the reverb side chain. Of course, you know the input, it doesn't have to be anything because you're not recording into anything. The output would be the side chain reverb, the reverb side chain, and that's where it's going to descend of the reverb.
Right. Yeah. Man, reverb is amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing, and like that's like sometimes. Like hearing certain artists like Sway Lee and Post Malone and a lot of R&B singers, like you hear those heavy reverb and they sound so good. And I would say my go-to would be like this is my favorite thing to do. Like if you really want to pipe some ad-libs up, like I'm talking about like pipe them up. But it depends on the genre of music you're working on, and it depends on the artist. But like artists that like to rap with auto-tune and, you know, have that Atlanta sound, a nice filter on your ad-libs. Ad-libs panning real nice, like deep reverb. I'm talking about heavy reverb.
Well, on the output or the wet?
On the send itself.
Oh, the send itself.
Yeah. On the send itself. On the send itself, you're gonna turn your send up. You're gonna let a lot of reverb into your audio track. Now,
so you can hear the effects.
Right. The reverb itself, I usually don't do a super long tail because I like working with delays and delay throws on my ad libs.
Yeah.
But that filter, that heavy reverb, like that, and it depending on, and I like to EQ my reverb to the artist's voice. So what I'll do is I'll set my parameters for my reverb, put a filter and pan, and do some nice automation panning on the ad libs, send it to the reverb heavily, and throw some quarter delays and half delays on it, and you're gonna get like this Migo Travis Scott. When I tell you, bruh, like that's my go-to when I deal with certain artists, especially newer artists that I really haven't dealt with, and I'm in the studio and we're
just
recording.
Trying to get a vibe with them, trying to see like, okay, let's see if they like
I
this.
always work on the ad libs first. I swear it, bro. I swear I work on the ad libs first
because the artist is already gonna feel it.
Man, the artist will be like, ooh, what would you do to that? What you? Yes, sir. I got you. Then anything sound like Travis Scott, don't it, my boy?
Because it's always an effect they want that they heard.
Right, exactly.
Some people create something new by, okay, good example. You can put like a guitar amp on the vocals.
Yep.
Or you can put the guitar amp on the kick.
I do it.
Yeah, you don't really have to use the actual plugin what it's entitled for.
Yeah, like I don't like to use distortion plugins.
You don't?
And I rather use this is like on some, I deal with a lot of Atlanta sound.
Yeah.
So, I deal with a lot of auto-tune. Probably too much auto-tune.
It's always too much auto-tune.
I'm always dealing with auto-tune. So, like when I want to distort like ad-libs or intros or, on this specific drop in the beat, I'm going to distort these words right here just to make it stand out or whatever. I don't like using the distortion plugin because it's kind of like, at least the ones that I have, they don't have like a body.
A body?
Like I use guitar amps because guitar amps give you like that warmth, like a.
And then you could control the tone of the amp too.
Exactly, yeah. I can control and I can almost EQ it, and it just gives me more of a. I don't know, like the distortion is more musical versus.
What distortion plugin you're using?
Bro, it's been a long time since I used one.
Decapitator? That's like one of my go-tos. By Soundtoy?
Nah, I don't even think I got Decapitator. I don't even think I have Decapitator. I was using.
I'm trying to remember. There's a few.
I still use like flangers and different things like that. Yeah. Voice boxes but like that distortion. I use
Universal.
Nah, I don't have that one either. I use. Oh man, God.
I'm trying to think. What is it? A Waves plugin?
Yeah, I use. Yeah, that's pretty much what I use.
You talking about what?
Waves and
one knob. You talking about that kind of distortion?
I had the one knob distortion. I think I just got to reinstall it on my computer, but I don't use it. So I had all of the one knobs, and a few of them. I think I just have to reinstall newer versions or something on. Yeah. When I go to my Wave Central, but I don't even use them, bro. Like I just rather use a guitar amp because I have so many guitar amps.
There's so many guitar amp plugins.
And then inside of the guitar amp plugin, you can emulate different amps, like the orange amp, and you can emulate different. Yeah, you can emulate different brands and different. You can put a bass amp on it. You can put a treble amp on it, like you know what I'm saying. It's just so much more you can do with the guitar amps, man. I'm gonna get more into
put a guitar amp on your vocals, see how that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's like an auto tune type of.
Yeah,
man, I love it because I mean, like on some standout, like I said, if I put a filter on the piano right here, in that, if it fits, I might put a guitar amp on the vocals right there to kind of make the vocals stand out a little bit more, and like the guitar amp just add its own reverb to it. It's magical if you do it right.
So this was actually a good episode. We talked about a lot today.
Yeah, we
had
did.
A lot of people.
We dropped a few jewels, man.
Yeah.
We got a lot to learn, but we also know a good amount too, y'all, and hopefully a lot of the things that we talked about today can help somebody, or even if, like I always say, it can just be confirmation. Even if you know these things, hearing other people say what you know always makes you feel better about what you know. So it's been a great episode.
Yeah.
I hope you guys learned a lot. We dropped some gems for sure. This might be one of my favorite ones because we really dug down and got into some real technical talking and, about some great topics today.
Of course. Okay, everybody, we just want to say thank you for supporting us, those who's following us on our website. Thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for everybody who reads the blog. Just want to say thank you for those who hit us up on social media, commenting us on website. We really appreciate it. And of course, as always, from Rebel Ears, till next time, keep tuning in. This is Ray.
And refuse to sound ordinary. YL.